Den of Thieves is a gritty Los Angeles crime saga which follows the intersecting and often personally connected lives of an elite unit of the LA County Sheriff's Department and the state's most successful bank robbery crew. Tensions build as the outlaws plan a seemingly impossible heist on the Federal Reserve Bank of downtown Los Angeles. Den of Thieves stars Gerard Butler, Pablo Schreiber, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Brian Van Holt, and Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. More info can be had on Facebook and Instagram at Den of Thieves and on Twitter, #Den of Thieves. Den of Thieves is in theaters January 19th, but you can call 818-985-2711 for a complimentary pair of available tickets to selected AMC screenings if you're a film club member, or to subscribe and join the KPFK Film Club and enjoy the fun.
Good afternoon. My name is Nyma Ardalan. I'm glad to be bringing you another program from the SWANA Region Radio at KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles. Our discussion today will focus on Syria and the recent Turkish attack on the city of Afrin, and also about a documentary called Resistance is Life, and it was based on the struggle of the Kurds in Kobane. In 2014, ISIS attacked the Kurdish city of Kobane, very similar to what is happening in Afrin right now, except this time it's by Turkish forces, and back in 2014 it was ISIS that was attacking the Kurds. Kobane is a Kurdish city right on the border of Syria and Turkey, and Afrin is a bit to the west, but still close to the Turkish border, and the Turks are planning on removing the Kurdish administration, this Kurdish canton, and disconnecting and basically circumventing any kind of Kurdish aspirations. My guest today is an activist, Mr. Goran Zaneti. He is a film producer, writer, and contributor to numerous online news publications on topics concerning U.S. foreign policy and conflicts in the Middle East. His latest work includes production of the recent award-winning documentary Resistance is Life, about Syrian Kurdish refugees in Turkey and the key battle between Kurdish fighters and ISIS in the town of Kobane. He has been featured in publications such as Lebanon's Daily Star and has been a guest on affiliated stations of NPR, Voice of America, and CCTV, among others. Goran has made frequent trips to Iraq and Turkey and has worked with non-profit groups on a variety of humanitarian projects in the region. Now, Goran, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon, and I do appreciate you taking the time off to talk to us. Before we talk about Afrin, I want to go and tell our listeners about the film. What is this film, Resistance is Life?
Well, the film is, as you described it, it's a film about the conflict that took place in Kobane in 2014 to 2015. The film is about specifically about the refugees that fled the war, and they were trapped on the Turkish-Syrian border, many of them still there. And it's told through the perspective of a beautiful 8-year-old girl who still sadly lives in the camp with her family.
Now, what prompted you to go about and even dream of this film? I mean, what was behind it? I mean, I already mentioned that in 2014, ISIS attacked the Kurdish city of Kobane, not only in Syria but also in Iraq as well. Tell our listeners how the film is different from other documentaries on Syria.
Well, the film, I could start with how the film is different. The film is different simply because we are telling the story through the perspective of the refugees. I think a lot of the existing documentaries and various news clips that cover the war in Syria particularly focus on the conflict. They cover, perhaps from the perspective of the fighters, from the people on the ground there, but they don't really get viewers in touch with the refugees so much. Refugees often in these types of conflicts are, talked about in numbers. 300 refugees fled the border, 1,000 refugees, tried to cross the Mediterranean. 50 refugees died, trying to make a trek across, Europe. But there are more than numbers for us, and we just wanted to get viewers in touch, create a human connection between the viewers of our film and the actual refugees in the camp. And so, our film doesn't exactly cover every bit of, political news that happened during that period, the attacks on Kobane, nor does it try to. That wasn't the angle we really wanted to take. The political news, the advances of ISIS, the advances of the Kurdish forces are really a background for the real setting of the film, which is the situation for the refugees and their resilience in the face of this tragedy.
Now, tell us how the film was formulated. Timeline of the events that led up to completing the film. Discuss on the troubles you had. Let's say.
Yeah, sure. When you mentioned there was attacks by ISIS in both Iraq and Syria, particularly against the Kurdish regions. So that was a very difficult year for anybody who was really paying attention. I mean, I think anybody who simply followed the news couldn't, hold tears back when seeing what was happening in towns like Sinjar in Iraq or Kobane in Syria. How it really started is we initially had decided to do something here in the States as much as we could, which was to raise money for clothing and supplies and food and all that. We teamed up with an organization out in Nashville to raise money here in, I'm in the Bay Area in San Francisco. So we did that. The money and supplies were sent over. That was specifically delivered to doctors from the University of Duhok in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. Meanwhile, there was, the tragedies in Syria. At that time, and we did this fundraising effort. It was myself, along with Apo Bazidi, who's the director of Resistance's Life. We had done that project, and there still was a lot going on. And he decided to make the trip over there to Turkey, to the refugee camps, to sort of do a little bit more and volunteer in the camps. So he made his way over there. And while there, I began doing what I do, which is freelance journalism, and started writing on the topic. And he was sort of my eyes and ears on the ground. He had conducted interviews for me and did a little bit of research, helped me out when I asked. And then in the midst of all that, he began filming. And he has a story that he often tells when people ask him about the film, which is, he had just completed volunteering with Doctors Without Borders. He began, he set up his camera to tape the sunset. He's a filmmaker, so naturally he had his camera with him, and he was just, recording stuff all around him. And the star of the film, Evelyn, who's the 8-year-old girl, she sort of popped her head in front of the camera, and that's sort of where the story took off. He later reached out to me, said, I've started filming, I have a star, and let's do this. And I was instantly on board with that.
That's one of the most interesting things about that movie, that actually, it is a documentary, and the way I've seen it, I had the fortune to see it at one of its screening here in LA, and this natural beauty, this great smart little girl, or lady I should say, basically it just captures you. It just takes you to a different dimension as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I was captivated with her performance and the way this movie was put together. I mean, my hat is off to both you, Apo, and but now tell us a little bit more about the film's next screenings. Before we start talking about what is happening in Syria, I want to get that out too, please.
Sure. We've been touring really the world. We've had screenings in Europe, in the Middle East, as well as all across the United States. We've just about wrapped up a festival circuit. We have a few festival screenings to go. They are not announced yet, so I'm not at liberty to talk about those. But there is a screening in LA coming up at UCLA, specifically on February 26th. So that will be one of our special screenings. We've done a few screenings at universities across the states, and we're really delighted to be able to screen at UCLA. So February 26th. Details about that, the time and the exact building where it will be screened will be available on our website at resistancemovie.com. So we should be updating that fairly
Definitely. Soon. I'm going to make a note of this and remind our listeners before the screening is up. I do recommend it to our KPFK listeners, or to everyone, I mean, especially this time or this point of time. Now, what's going to happen to the movie after all these screenings are over? What's next?
Well, in the next couple of months, we should be getting it online. We are working on a distribution package, and we should be seeing it online pretty soon. Again, I don't have any information on hand, but if the listeners go to resistancemovie.com, they'll be able to see that, and hopefully, that will be available globally.
That's excellent news. Now, tell us how people can help, and then give us the website again, too.
Well, the website is resistancemovie.com, and in order to, if listeners want to help, we have a link on our website. It's for an organization called Rebuild. They support initiatives to help Syrian people reconstruct their lives, providing food, protection, shelter, health, education. And they can donate directly to Rebuild by going to our website. Under the support section, there's a link there.